Hello everybody and welcome back, and thank you for joining me. Tonight we have part 4 of the Cannock Chase series, and if you want parts 1, 2 and 3, have a look in the playlist section on my channel and you'll find it there, and I'll include a link in the video as well. If you want to see the sightings on the map, there's also a link included there. Not only do I have some new accounts for you, well, new as in you haven't heard them before, I also have a document. It's the Freedom of Information Act, and it's by a gentleman who I won't name, who applied under the Freedom of Information Act for strange figures and creature accounts in the Stafford area, and I think you'll find it very interesting when you see the figures. But first of all, let's go to a Bigfoot sighting on Cannock Chase. And it's an interesting account, and it was in the Birmingham Mail, and it was sent into the Birmingham Mail in 2013. And it's a witness who speaks of a strange human-like type creature. And that's what the Birmingham Mail said about it. And it says, after recent events worldwide regarding Bigfoot, interest in the Cannock Chase's very own alleged Sasquatch has heightened. The Sunday Mercury was approached by a Cannock Chase resident who claims to have had a very strange encounter in the Staffordshire Forest. And we also have a look at the Freedom of Information figures for beasts and creatures in the Staffordshire area between 2008 and 2017. So we go back to the Mercury account, and the title is The Upright Human Figure, Staffordshire 2013. Last year, around June time, me and 2 other friends were supposed to go to a 24-hour basketball event for charity. Being lads, we decided to skive and go and sit in the lane in my car and do what typical teenage lads do. Anyway, me and 2 others were parked up in a little pull-in down a lane in Gentleshaw, not too far from Burntwood, Cannock. We were parked in this pull-in facing the road, and there were trees either side of us and a gated field behind us. It was around 2 o'clock in the morning, and we had the interior light on in the car. When my friend in the front passenger seat said he could see something moving outside, on the right side of the car. We turned off the interior light to get a better look, and we couldn't definitely see anything, but we could see something moving in the trees in the distance. Our first thoughts were a person or an animal, and all we could see was something large moving around. This thing must have been about 10-15 metres away, but it's dark and the car lights are off, and that's how we're viewing it. He actually writes, I didn't exactly have time to measure, so 10-15 metres away, but he didn't have time to get out and measure. I turned the car headlights and hazard lights on to see if I could see more clearly. This thing was the shape of a human, but it stood about 7 to 8 feet tall. It was hard to tell with it being dark and it's such a distance away. At first sight, it was crouching, not completely to the floor, but approximately halfway down and facing directly at the car. It was too dark to see whether it was staring at us, but I'm guessing it was. As soon as it realised we'd seen it, it stood up straight to its full height. It hesitated and then ran towards us. Well, as you can imagine, I wasn't sticking around. This thing was definitely not human. It was huge. It wasn't just tall, but broad and stocky too. I haven't got a clue what its face was like, or its skin, or its fur, or whatever it had. It wasn't light enough for me to make that out. My back passenger darted to the other side of the car, and nobody said a word. As it came towards us, it was rustling big bushes as it went, shaking pretty big trees, and it was just like a horror movie. I drove out of the pull-in and turned left down the lane, and this thing was keeping up with the car, but in the tree line as it was running. I was trying so hard not to look in my mirrors, but I could see it in the corner of my eyes. I don't know whether it was flying or jumping or what. Its strength and quickness was unbelievable. Obviously, I wasn't thinking that at the time. I just wanted to get the hell out of there. I drove to the bottom of the lane doing about 80 miles an hour, and it just vanished as soon as I came up to a pub at the bottom of the lane. I didn't stop until I entered the residential area. The fear was unreal. I have never been so scared, and I didn't think I would ever experience anything that would scare me so much as this did. I actually felt physically sick. I was cold and shaky, and I just didn't want to believe what I had seen. None of us discussed it. We didn't say anything. I think we were all in denial. I completely blanked it from my mind after that, and I didn't discuss it again until about 3 days ago, when the front seat passenger brought it up in a random conversation, and now I can't forget about it. I hate reliving it, but I thought I'd let others know of my experience so I can gain some kind of understanding. I'm not asking you to believe me, because to everyone else it probably seems so far-fetched, but I know what I saw, and so do the other 2 lads with me. I'm not at all saying I saw a Bigfoot. That's not it. That's not what I'm saying. But I know 100% this thing was not human. I know other stories say the thing they saw had red eyes, but I didn't see red eyes. I wasn't close enough to see. I mean, I'm glad that I wasn't. What haunts me now is, what would its face have looked like? Where is it now? It must have been watching us. And what would it have done if we didn't get away? And that's quite a harrowing tale, but as you'll notice, as we go through these, there is a kind of a pattern. Now, we also have the Ranton Ape Man, and Ranton's not too far from Cannock Chase at all. And the very first account of a man-beast in the area dates back to 1879. When a creature described as being half man and half monkey was seen on a lonely stretch of road at the town of Ranton, which is situated only a few miles from where Cannock Chase stands. On January the 21st, 1879, a labourer was employed to take a cart of luggage from Ranton in Staffordshire to Woodcock in Shropshire. He was late coming back. His horse was tired, and he could only crawl along. So it was late at night when he arrived at the place where the road crosses the Birmingham and Liverpool Canal. Just before he reached the bridge, a strange black creature with great white eyes sprang out of the plantation by the roadside and alighted onto the horse's back. When the man recovered from his fright, he returned home and excitedly spread the story. A few days later, a policeman came round to his house and told the frightened man that this was the man-monkey. More than 100 years later, specifically around 1995, a brief sighting was made by a lady called Jackie Horton, and she saw, in her own words, a huge and lumbering hair-covered creature. It was in the early hours of the morning near the small picturesque village of Slittingmill, which is situated in the heart of the Chase. Similarly, in 1998, the following account surfaced from a witness, and the witness says, "It was a Starkville night, clear but dark, and we were all in a car driving home, happily chatting and joking. Suddenly, we all fell dead serious. The people in the back sat forward, and we all pointed at the same shape. It was a tall, man-like figure, sort of crouching forward, not all the way down, but about halfway. As we passed, it turned and looked straight at us. In my own words, I would describe it as being around 6 feet 8 inches tall, approximately. Really tall. Its legs were thicker than 2 of mine put together. It had a very strong looking build to it, and it had a darkish, blackish brown coat. I could not explain it, and I still get goosebumps thinking about it." Now, in search of the Wolfman of Brockton, another report involving a group of teenagers who, while stopping for a cigarette break on a popular car park near the village of Brockton, a place that describes itself as the gateway to Cannock Chase, the teenagers in question witnessed the understandably terrifying sight of what they described as an oversized upright wolf rummaging through a litter bin. Luckily, at a distance of around 20 metres, The creature didn't notice them, and it soon moved on. Another young lady named Heather gave the account to a Staffordshire Post. Heather said, I used to go to Staffordshire Uni, and one of the second-year students, who was a mum of a teenage boy, told me a very strange story. We were chatting one day when she told me about a weird experience her son had had down there on the chase. This happened to her son and his mates one night when they were out wasting time as teenagers do. They all went into the woods to explore the place and hang out. They'd been there a while when her son felt the call of nature. He went off to the loo in the bushes, and while he was there, he thought he saw a glimpse of an animal. Just a normal badger, because it was black in colour and had a white stripe down its back. He watched it while he was peeing until he stood up. It stood up to about 7 feet in height, and her son ran back to his friends. He did turn around as he was running to look back, but whatever it was, it didn't follow him. The two girls that were in the forest with them just giggled at him, thinking he was making the whole thing up, and they went to investigate this werewolf he'd seen. They walked off in the direction he'd come from, and to their delight, they found it. Delight turned to fright as it rose up and chased them out of the woods as they ran back to the house. The creature never left the tree line. They could hear it in there, but it wouldn't come out of the bushes into the light, so they couldn't get a good look at it. Now, listening to some of those accounts, it is of no doubt a shock to anyone to realise that something is moving around down in Cannock and being seen by many different witnesses. In 2017, an unnamed source applied under the Freedom of Information Act for any beast or strange creature accounts that were reported to the police in the Staffordshire area between 2008 and 2017. As you can see from the image provided, that the numbers reveal some very strange references. Now, in 17 hours, this document was declared false, taken back really, as a government employee said they had checked every single one of the thousands of results thoroughly in that short amount of time. Now, if you factor in normal working hours in real time, it means everything was checked within an afternoon. And I think there are something like 18,000 plus accounts on there. So all those accounts were checked in a normal working afternoon. And that was said by the government representative who provided the information. Now, in future, to apply under this Information Act, it would mean that we would have to ask for a sighting that happened on a certain day, date and time, which in essence makes it impossible to reapply. So you would have to say in February of 1962, on June the 3rd, was there a creature reported to the British police? That's how you'd have to go about it. So can you imagine how many thousands of places you'd have to apply to? Because that was just Staffordshire. And it was only from 2008 to 2017. So how many other areas of the UK have these kind of reports? And as you look at it, I read it, I was astounded. I've known about this for quite a while, to be honest, but it's the first time I've been able to get round to bringing it out. And it was first brought up in August of 2017. And it says, Wolf, 409. Werewolf. Now, are you ready for this? Werewolves reported to the police in that amount of time. So that's not accounts that I have. These are extra accounts that are out there. And the figure on that is 12. And you can see that for yourself. Beast came in at 85. So there are 85 beasts that have been reported. Not to me or anybody else. To the police. So those accounts just astound me. Now, when you ask about cats, it is 17,093. 17,093 big cats were reported to the police in those years. Puma, specifically, was 1,003. And leopard was 1,403. So I think there's a little bit more than something running about a Cannock chase. I think there are quite a lot. And I know some members, some British researchers went out there last month. And there's a new Facebook page for anybody interested. And it's Shropshire Bigfoot. And it's for anyone in the Shropshire area who wants to meet up or go out with people or around the Shropshire area, in Staffordshire, places like that, Shropshire, Shrewsbury, anywhere that you think that would be ideal for you. And when they meet up, that would give you an opportunity to meet up with some of the British Bigfoot researchers out there. And they swap accounts and evidence, and these videos and articles from all across the world. So Shropshire Bigfoot, it's on Facebook. If you have any trouble with it, get in touch with me at debbiehatswell@gmail.com, all lowercase letters, and I will sort it for you. I'll send you the link for it. So until next time, stay warm, everyone. And thank you, I must say before I go, actually, I want to say thank you for all the Christmas cards that have been sent to me. But thank you for everybody that sent sympathy cards and donations for my dad. It was absolutely wonderful, and it made me cry, and that doesn't happen very often. But that's the circle of life, and as many of you know, my dad has now passed on. And one day I will tell you the story about how my dad told me that portals open everywhere I go when I went to visit him in the hospice. Well, that's a whole other tale. So until next time, everyone, good night.